Welcome to my channel Echoes of Coin. This tiny dime once decided the fate of American money. In 1964, people stopped spending it, started hiding it, and quietly changed history. Made of real silver, this coin vanished from pockets almost overnight. Why did the United States end silver coinage? And why does this small dime still matter today? The 1964 United States $1 dime is far more than a small silver coin. It is a powerful historical artifact that represents the end of an era, the transformation of American money, and a moment when trust, value, and metal collided. This single dime carries within it the story of a nation's economy, political change, public confidence, and the last breath of circulating silver coinage in everyday American life. At first glance, the 1964 dime appears simple. It measures just 17.91 millimeters in diameter and weighs 2.5 grams. Yet within those dimensions lies a composition of 90% silver and 10% copper, making it one of the last U.S. dimes struck for circulation using real silver. This composition alone separates the 1964 dime from almost every dime that followed it, turning it into a symbol of intrinsic value rather than just face value. The obverse of the coin features the portrait of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a design introduced in 1946, shortly after his death. Roosevelt's image was chosen not only because he served as the 32nd President of the United States, but because of his deep personal connection to the March of Dimes, a campaign dedicated to fighting polio. Roosevelt himself had been afflicted by polio, and the dime became a tribute to his leadership and resilience. By 1964, this portrait had already been familiar to Americans for nearly 2 decades, but it would soon take on new meaning as the silver era came to an end. The inscription Liberty curves along the left edge of the obverse, symbolizing one of the core values of the United States. Beneath Roosevelt's chin appears the motto "In God We Trust," a phrase that reflects the cultural and political climate of mid-20th century America. To the right of the portrait is the date 1964, a year that would later become one of the most important dates in U.S. numismatic history. On the reverse side, the Torch of Liberty stands upright at the center, flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right. The torch represents freedom, enlightenment, and progress. The olive branch symbolizes peace, while the oak branch stands for strength and endurance. Above these symbols are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. Below the torch sits the denomination $1 dime, modest in wording yet monumental in significance. The year 1964 was a turning point for American coinage. Rising silver prices had begun to threaten the practicality of silver coins in everyday circulation. As the intrinsic value of silver increased, the metal inside the dime began to approach, and in some cases exceed, its face value. This created a serious economic problem. People started hoarding silver coins, removing them from circulation and storing them as bullion rather than spending them as money. The U.S. government faced a difficult decision: continue producing silver coins and risk shortages, or transition to a new composition that would preserve circulating currency. The Coinage Act of 1965 would ultimately end silver in dimes and quarters, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. However, the 1964 dime was the final year in which the United States struck dimes for circulation containing 90% silver. Although officially dated 1964, production of these dimes continued into early 1966 due to massive public demand and hoarding. The U.S. Mint continued striking 1964-dated dimes even after silver was officially removed from newer coinage, simply to stabilize the money supply. This unusual decision makes the 1964 dime unique, as it exists at the intersection of 2 monetary systems. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1.3 billion 1964 dimes, while the Denver Mint struck more than 1.3 billion as well. These enormous mintages explain why many 1964 dimes are still commonly found today. However, condition is everything in numismatics. While circulated examples are abundant, high-grade uncirculated specimens, especially those with strong strikes and original luster, are far more desirable. Proof versions were also struck at the Philadelphia Mint, featuring mirror-like fields and sharp details. These proof dimes were sold directly to collectors and were never intended for circulation. Today, proof 1964 dimes are highly valued when preserved in pristine condition, particularly those with deep cameo contrast. From a bullion perspective, the 1964 dime contains approximately 0.07234 troy ounces of silver. This gives the coin a melt value that fluctuates with the global silver market. For many collectors and investors, this intrinsic silver content makes the coin appealing even in worn condition. Unlike modern clad dimes, a 1964 dime will always have value beyond its face denomination. Emotionally and historically, the 1964 dime represents the end of honest money in the eyes of many collectors. It marks the final chapter of a time when U.S. circulating coins were made from precious metal, carrying real weight and substance. After 1964, American coins became tokens rather than stores of intrinsic value. Collectors often view the 1964 dime as a gateway coin, easy to obtain, affordable, and deeply historical. It is often one of the first silver coins added to a beginner's collection, yet it remains respected by advanced numismatists. Its story connects politics, economics, metal markets, and public psychology in a way few coins can. The Roosevelt dime series itself spans multiple eras, but the 1964 issue stands apart as a milestone. It is the final silver Roosevelt dime, the last of its kind to circulate widely, and a silent witness to a massive shift in American monetary policy. When held in hand, it carries not just silver, but the weight of a changing nation. Even today, the sound of a silver dime dropped on a table is unmistakable. That sharp, ringing tone is absent from modern coins. It is a reminder of craftsmanship, material value, and a time when money felt different, heavier, colder, more permanent. The 1964 one dime is not rare, yet it is irreplaceable. Once the silver era ended, it never returned to circulation coinage. This makes every surviving example a small but meaningful relic of American history. For collectors, investors, historians, and storytellers, the 1964 United States dime is a coin that refuses to be ignored. It may be small, but its story is vast, echoing across decades of economic change, political decisions, and human behavior.